Be still and know God.
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 I'm sustained by your love.
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 Where I am, God is.
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 God is love.
God is love.
Love is life.
Love is life.
I am God's life.
I am God's life.
I am. God is love.
God is love.
Love is life.
Love is life.
I am God's life.
I am God's life.
I am. God is love.
God is love.
Love is life.
Love is life.
I am God's life.
I am God's life.
I am. Be still and know God.
Be
I'm sustained by your love.
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 Where I am, God is.
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 Join us in ohms.
As you can see, my candles have lit.
Sorry, Jack, I was in the kitchen.
Okay. Why must I always I have to demonstrate what I teach? Am I supposed to have peace over all these infractions? Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. Once again, I will need a couple of volunteers to help clear this stuff away for the next service, which is a little different. And it is not possible to overstate the madness of the ego-centered consciousness that rules the world. It is not possible to overstate it, so I'm going to share this with you as to establish that point. So you know this is the point from which we depart to another level of awareness. A silver star hanging over the birthplace of Jesus in Bethlehem was the cause of a war which involved 5 world powers, lasted 3 long years, and caused 1 million casualties, as well as $1.5 billion. This was known as the Crimean War, 1853 to 1856. For many years, the silver star decorating the site of the Christ's birth had been an object of controversy. The Eastern Orthodox clergy wanted to replace it with a star of their own. The Latin clergy objected. The former, that is the Orthodox Eastern clergy, were backed by the Russians, and the latter, which were the Latin clergy, were backed by France. When Turkey which then ruled over the Holy Land, sided with the Latins, Russia declared war on Turkey. Great Britain, France, and Italy then rallied to Turkey's side. The Allies finally won, but the Russians topped off the affair with an act of extreme sacrilege. They sold at auction for fertilizer the bleached bones of 38,000 soldiers who fell in the battle. 2 years later, in 1858, the Silver Star was permanently taken off and replaced with a moose head. Do you believe that last part? It wasn't replaced with a moose head. Okay, they took the star, but it should have been replaced with a moose head. Confession of the insanity. Last Sunday we made the point that inner peace was the most valuable thing one could attain in life. And you just have to be aware of what's going on in the media and the news all the time, what's taking place in the outer-directed world, to know that not very many people attain inner peace. And we said that shortest of all parables, the pearl of great price, really is the pearl of inestimable price, and it symbolizes mystical peace. That is peace that is not contingent upon the conditions and circumstances of the world. And so that is a departure from the thinking of the world in which we were born and raised and educated. And in that world, when one has peace, it is only because his or her personal expectations, point of view, desires are met. So there's a departure from that if we're going to find that consciousness that the masters of life call us to. It's actually the consciousness that we were destined to live in. But we have to work to get there. And so this fact of inner peace is acknowledged by all the masters down through the ages, and specifically this day in modern times. We have A Course in Miracles recognizing it as well. Can we have this first PowerPoint up here? This is in the old Course in Miracles text 206, the new edition 222. Salvation is for the mind, and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved, and the only way to save it. Any response other than love arises from a confusion about the what and the how of salvation. And this is the only answer. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. So it is fairly emphatic from A Course in Miracles, which reiterates this point continuously throughout the text, that this is what we are here to attain, which is mystical peace. Of course, it requires a somewhat radical transformation in the way we have been conditioned to interpret ourselves and life. A radical interpretation of the mind from its personal perspective, in which it interprets itself as an isolated body awareness in a world of separate others. That's the world. And we need to expand or transform that awareness that we are conditioned to live in. We need to expand it to recognize the universal awareness of all inclusiveness. That's the mind of the masters. That's the mind of Jesus Christ. That's the mind of true life. And that is the mind that brings a peace that surpasses the understanding of the world. Imagine, these are things that I'm saying that were said 2,000 years ago and have been said down through the ages. A peace that surpasses the understanding of the world. It's very clear. It requires a change in the way we identify our existence, in how we perceive life. And so that's what we are about doing here in Unity. We're about making this transformation from the illusionary idea of life into the consciousness or the kingdom of God, which is actually the consciousness of God. What I am saying to you is not something that comes from academic texts or actually can be proven by some theological ideas that were put down by some distant character in the past. What is being shared here all the time is something you can prove to yourself. If you listen to what I'm sharing with you this morning, you can prove to yourself that all minds on a more refined level are in communication. All minds are in communication, are actually one in the grand oversoul of life that we refer to as God. So that's what we're about doing. There's a revelation here to be had, and it's also related to us from A Course in Miracles. Can we have the next PowerPoint, please? This is in the old text, page 162, the new edition 174. If your brothers, and by the way, using the male gender in the pronouns throughout these texts was only a choice by the person channeling this to avoid the complications in language, which we already have from the very beginning. So you can, whenever you see brothers and you see the male gender being used, you can always add sisters, because this is the truth of the consciousness that was being shared through these texts. If your brothers and sisters are part of you, will you accept them? Only they can teach you what you are. For your learning is the result of what you taught them. That line right there takes you right out of the world in which you were born. Look at what it's saying here. Only they, your brothers and sisters around you, can teach you what you are. For your learning is the result of what you taught them. What you call upon in them, you call upon in yourself. This goes on. Heather? Who's running this? Anybody? Can we get the girl that lit my candle to run up there? There's no more. Where are you? They did? Okay. If what you do to, okay. And that's okay. And as you call upon it in them, it becomes real to you. God has but one Son, knowing them all as one. Only God himself is more than they, but they are not less than he. Would you know what this means? If what you do to my brother, you do to me, and if you do everything for yourself, because we are part of you, everything we do belongs to you as well. Everyone God created is a part of you. Of course, this is the focused truth of reality. You can find yourself living in that consciousness. You can find yourself being an instrument of healing because you become so enamored with the beautiful joy and peace that comes from leaving behind the limited illusion of separation, in which we see ourselves in separation and are forever trying to create something real out of something that is flawed. The illusion of separation, I'm a separate body mind in a world of separate others, and my personal self-interest must precede me in every moment that I find myself, is deadly, continues to be deadly. When the Bible speaks about the death of people and the dead to be risen, it's speaking about those people still operating in the illusion. There's me and there's all that is not me. That's it. You want life? You want it abundantly, you don't want to struggle for it, work for it, and fear it, then take upon yourself the yoga that I'm sharing with you today. And really, when you get right down to it, what is being said by these truths, except what the Master said 2,000 years ago? To love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. Then he said the second commandment is like it. To love your neighbor as yourself. To love your neighbor who is yourself. To love so completely and totally that you realize that everything is God. Those two commandments are one. And it brings us into a consciousness of divine awareness and divine peace. Did we actually think that the world is going to be changed by some political agenda, by some characters that wield power in political positions? You can prove to yourself that you are a consciousness capable of being a divine, eternal being operating in a human experience. If you want to do that, just pay attention to the yoga that I'm sharing here this morning. And let's have it fortified by the modern day master Eckhart Tolle. Can we have the video, please?
Something is still missing in my life, something is still not right. And then you try other relationships, and you try other places to live, and you try other activities, and sooner or later, and usually sooner, you come again to the place. This isn't right either. And then you ask, what am I really meant to do? Where am I really meant to be? Because it's not here. It's never here, ultimately. Because you're not at home deep enough in the now. So you can never feel, this is never it. So, but there's no external solution to that. There's only an inner solution to that. You come home to the now, and so you have to drop down beyond the mental, emotional accumulations that you confuse with who you are. And you sense, as I sometimes say, the ripple on the surface of the Pacific Ocean stops thinking of itself as a ripple and senses its own depths. And suddenly the ripple feels at one with the depths of the ocean, but also feels at one with every other ripple that it sees on the surface of the ocean, because it senses its connectedness with the totality, with the one, and therefore recognizes every other ripple as also being an expression of that. And then for the first time it can become comfortable with other ripples, really at ease. The ripples, of course, in our analogy are people.
A common question that is asked, how can I bring my mind into the consciousness of all-inclusive forgiveness and love? Honestly speaking, you can't. Not on your own, not by the volition of your ego-centered idea of self. What takes place is a willingness within you to allow this divine intelligence which permeates everything that is. Once we choose to allow this divine intelligence to move in our awareness, we do this through spiritual practice. So it's not something that we are going to conjure through the manipulation of the mind. The fact is, the surface mind cannot manufacture love. It can't. It's not made to do that. It's made to serve and ultimately must serve, but it cannot manufacture love. So all these times that you may have struggled and fought with self-determination and self-will to make yourself love something, you can relax and let that go. What is really required is to recognize the truth, to so totally know the truth that that which you're looking upon is also a part of the consciousness that you call mind. Everything you are looking upon is also a part of the one consciousness you are calling mind. And when you are doing that, what happens is there's a welling up within you. It comes from the Bible, so beautifully put. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have arrived in the consciousness of God. God that judges no one, gives you permission to do whatever you decide you are doing and want to do. You have, free will to do that. And you will learn from the doing of it the responses that come to you in life. So that you're allowed to learn as you go along, be awake in your living. And finally decide to relax, let go, and allow this divine awareness to prevail in your consciousness. And quite often it requires one to take a pause, because we are so used to reacting to conditions and circumstances from the limited surface conscious mind, the ego-centered idea of self, that we simply react and then create more and more chaos in our experience. But if you have the presence of mind to pause and know that you want peace above all other things, that it is your destiny to live as a master of life, in which your consciousness rides above the thinking of the world, while all the battlefields of the world are intact and going on, and all the conflicts in the world are continuing, and all the madness of the world continues, it no longer has that effect upon you to join in and become part of the problem. You, through your practice, through your yoga, live in a refined space of awareness, of peace and joy, and have the capability of bringing peace and joy to everything you experience in your life. So there's a handout that goes with this. This is the little handout I gave you as you came in. This is for your practice this week. And it has a typo in it. I've given the secretary permission to put one typo in every one of the handouts that I have, so that I can remain humble. Same thing that goes on with the candle. It's so discouraging. Do this week, and you will. It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take years and months, really, of spiritual practice to have things happen that you will say, that's mystical. That couldn't have happened. You'll watch things take place, conditions, relationships move in such a way that you'll have to agree there is only one power, one presence, one mind of which I am a part. And then you take the task, you take right in the whole idea of the masters that say the part is whole and the whole is in every part. Okay, but starting out on this, this doesn't happen in one full-flown thing. Start out with the idea, as you look out and you're seeing conditions and circumstances and people doing things that are not in keeping with harmony or good relationships, just start out by knowing everyone is a work in progress. I am a work in progress, they are a work in progress. Everybody's given permission to learn from their own thinking the responses from life that will teach them. And you start off that way, and you'll come eventually to this truth, again, shared by A Course in Miracles. Can we have this up here, please? You can read this in the old text, page 155, 156, in the new edition, 167. At one ment is for all, because it is the way to undo the belief that anything is for you alone. To forgive is to overlook. Look then beyond error, and do not let your perception rest upon it. For you will believe what your perception holds. Accept as true only what your brother is, if you would know yourself. Perceive what he is not, and you cannot know what you are, because you see him falsely. Remember always that your identity is shared, and that its sharing is its reality. This is the end of the cathedrals, the churches, the priests, the ministers, the middlemen, the fakers. It's the end of all of them, because you have been handed now the pathway into the consciousness of joy, peace, love, and all the things you've ever thought you wanted that would make you happy are all going to be there for you. It's in your hands. It's in your mind. It's been shared. You have the yoga to perform. There is no other religion, and there is no other God except the one that has been shared here today. So we're going to begin to practice our meditation with our Tibetan bowls calibrated to help you rise in your awareness, to forget the past and allow yourself to be present, and above all, always allow yourself to be okay. When you allow yourself to be okay wherever you're at, you will allow everybody else to be okay wherever they are at. If you don't have a particular meditation technique, take this one and use it as your mantra. God is love. Love is life. I am God's life. I am. I am. Stay with it. Breathe in the I, breathe out the am. Surrender to the truth. I am. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space, let us remember that wherever we are there by divine appointment, and to more and more be awake in the moment, in the now, allowing that divine awareness to prevail in all of the things you do. And for this opportunity in every moment to practice the presence, we give thanks. And to this, we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we are preparing to do this, let me invite you to stick around. What else are you doing today? We have a great follow-up service at 11 o'clock. Some phenomenal insights will be shared there as well. And you'll be able to share with more and more people. As we take our offerings in our hands, let's bless them with this offering truth. Divine love is my true life and my conscious destiny. Therefore, I give. Together, please. Divine love is my true life and my conscious destiny. Therefore, I give.
Oh, my